friendship that'll never ever end.
Run!
It's a beautiful day in the neighborhood. Reaction Beanie Yo 441. Day in that neighborhood. My brothers and sisters. Unfortunately, y'all, yesterday I did not have enough time in the day to record a Reaction Beanie Yo, man. Because I got out work late, then I got home late. Then when I got home, I had some very other important ish that I had to handle. And I just had one of those moments to myself where you just be like, there is not enough time in a day to get everything that you wish to accomplish within that day. You know what I'm saying, man? I just ran out of time. I ran out of time. Before I knew it, it was time for me to take my ass to bed so I can get up and go back to work the next day. But the good thing about this next day is now. And also that this next day is Friday. So y'all know who we're about to go back to. Adrian from Coffeehouse. Crime! Back to the Coffee Man. The Coffee Man Fridays, y'all. And the title of the video is When an Obsessive Stalker Turned to Murder. Man, I feel like we have watched over 100 videos about stalkers, y'all, and they never cease to amaze me because it's something about stalkers that just, it's like, why are you so obsessed with this one person? Like, what flipped in your brain to just make you obsessed with this person to the point where you will kill them? What making you stalk this person? Like, I have never had a stalker in my life, but I have talked to women and known women who have had stalkers, and it never just registers to me. Like, I don't understand, like, what would make you be a stalker? It is so just out of left field to me, y'all. So I almost, and some of y'all might call me crazy for saying this, but I almost feel like it's some type of disorder, like a stalker disorder. People who get so obsessed with somebody to the point where they would just think about them pretty much 24/7, and their whole life becomes engulfed with somebody else's life. Like, their whole existence is only caring about somebody else's existence and what they doing. I don't know, y'all. Does that make sense a little bit, man? I hope it do, man. I hope it do. But I digress on that too, because we finna go and get into the video. But before we get into the video, my brothers and sisters, y'all know what y'all got to do. Get whatever you might need and get what you need, please. Another The Coffee Man Friday. Y'all got what y'all need? Y'all ready to go? Then let's go.
When thriving tech engineer Zore Sedegi turned to the world of podcasting, she found success in helping others break into the tech industry. But little did she know that her presence online would attract a morbidly unhealthy individual. And after meeting her at a meet and greet, his fascination turned into obsessive stalking. Her sense of security was shattered after this, and Zore sought help from the authorities and her husband for protection against this terrifying individual. Sadly, his persistence would not stop there. As the months passed by, her stalker would find her phone number, her address, and would even make himself known with gifts outside of the property. And despite their best efforts to rid themselves of this nightmare, it would end in the most tragic way possible. Welcome back to Coffeehouse Crime, folks. My name is Adrian, and today we're looking at one of the most disturbing stalker cases that I've ever come across. Zore Sedegi and her husband were thrust into a terrifying situation when they could not rid themselves of an online stalker. And tragically, this would end in the most brutal of ways. If you're new here, I like to caffeinate while I investigate darkly fascinating stories. So, if that does sound like your kind of thing, please grab yourself a coffee, hit subscribe, and get ready for the deep dive. This is the case of Zore Sadeghi.
Get whatever you may need. And man, hey, this is even a worse form of a stalker right here, y'all. The online stalkers, like I really feel like these people got a disorder. Like you never even met this person in person. You know what I'm saying, man? You have become infatuated and crazy, like crazy over this person, and you don't even they ain't never even freaking seen them a day in your life in person. Like, come on, man. Come on, y'all. Something got to be wrong with stalkers, man. Like, I'm really starting to think it's a mental thing, like a real mental thing. Let's go.
Good morning, good afternoon, or good evening, folks. This story takes me back to my birthplace and first home, Seattle, Washington. With just over 4 million residents within its metropolitan area, Seattle is a bustling port city that has grown exponentially in the last decade. The city is known for its rather rainy weather, with almost half of the days in the year experiencing some sort of downfall. Covering the basics here, Seattle is also well known for its aerospace industry, Boeing, and of course, Starbucks. Saying that, if you'd like something a little more specialized, then there is no shortage of artisanal cafes and independent roasters to choose from. In fact, Seattle is known as one of the world's best cities when it comes to coffee, right next to London and Melbourne. Yep, I guess I really am just that predictable. Coffee aside, Seattle is an eclectic city with an ever-growing diverse population. And this is one of the many reasons why 33-year-old Iranian-American national Zore Sadeghi decided to settle in this city and more specifically in the suburb of Redmond. Zore and her 35-year-old husband, named Mohammed Milad Nasseri, were financially well-off individuals. They lived in an upmarket home they had purchased together for a cool sum of $1.6 million US. Now, of course, this is a lot of money, but at the same time, it is somewhat unsurprising considering Zore and Mohammed were both software engineers. An extremely well-paid title in the ever-growing technical industry sector that is taking Seattle by storm. Mohammed was previously employed by Google before leaving that job for a higher salary at Amazon. And Zore, on the other hand, she was more of a self-made techie. After graduating from the University of Washington, Tacoma, she took on contracted engineering jobs and built a portfolio before becoming a consultant. And of course, originally being from Iran, she was fluent in both English and Persian. The pair were highly hardworking and down-to-earth individuals, and were very thoughtful of others. In the year 2020...
Man, I just can't get off the fact that they house cost $1.6 million, y'all. I need to get into the technical computer design and industry, whatever the fuck it's called. Like, man, that is an expensive house. And it's so beautiful to see two people come together and put their brains and their love and their hearts and their lives together to be able to purchase a house like that. You know what I'm saying? It's so beautiful to see two people doing that. But we know it's finna end bad, but it's just nice to see still. Let's go.
And when the pandemic sent the country into lockdown, both Zore and Mohammed would help vulnerable neighbors by delivering supplies. To add to that, the couple would even prepare homemade soups for those around them. The pair married in 2011, and moving forward into the year 2021, they'd saved up enough money to buy the home of their dreams in Redmond. Friends say that the couple never had any turbulence in their relationship, and they were ready to begin the next chapter of their life before settling down and having children. In the same way that Coffeehouse Crime was born, Zore found herself with free time during the lockdown, and so she channeled this free time and energy into starting a podcast. She was a little more predictable than I was, though. As someone who was already in the tech industry, she used a podcast to help others break into the sector. Real quickly here, but it can be real hard to work one job while simultaneously building another. And one of the best ways to help you achieve your goals is through journaling. On the flip side, as someone who now spends so much time working, it is even more important for me to check in on myself. And thankfully, I can do both of these things thanks to the sponsor of today's video, the Day One Journal app.
I did not know he was going into a commercial, y'all. But yeah, man, it's just so nice to see them. And then for 10 years, they had been together before they even decided to start having children. Like, they live in, nobody's lives is perfect, but they live in the type of meet a man or a woman, the woman or the man of your dreams, get together, get your financials together, get them all right, get your careers going, buy you a beautiful house, and then, okay, now it's time to bring some other beautiful people into our lives. It's time to have some children. Like, they just doing it so correctly, though. I admire that, man. Like, I really do, y'all. I really admire that. But let's get back to it.
And here at Clubhouse, Zore found a community ready to form.
My fault. Let's go.
Returning to Zore and her podcast, she often hosted her episodes on an app called the Clubhouse. Clubhouse was launched in March of 2020 and featured interactive rooms where people with similar interests and professions could meet and converse with each other. And here at Clubhouse, Zore found a community ready to form around her. Spoken in her native language of Farsi, Zore reached out to fellow Iranian Americans struggling to find work in the tech industry. Over the months, her talks would consistently grow an audience. She would often advise on how to secure a job, and her aim was to help those who joined her for her speeches. And one of those who joined her and her podcast in late 2021 was 28-year-old Ramin Kodakaram Rezai. Ramin joined Zore's podcast to get advice from a Farsi speaker. Being a truck driver, he felt financially unstable and wasn't quite leading the lifestyle that he wanted. And so, with that in mind, he considered following the money by moving into the tech industry. Inspired by his determination to break into this sector, Zore and Ramin started chatting in chat rooms found on the Clubhouse app. These conversations were mostly found in online group chats, as opposed to private ones. As time progressed, he began to message her for advice more frequently, attending as many of her talks and podcasts as his schedule would allow. In short, whenever Zore was online, Ramin would be too. Moving forward to the summer of 2022, Zore's talks had become so popular that she arranged for a group meeting to be conducted in person, with this consisting of several people she had made friends with over the months, including Ramin. Now, you can probably tell where this story is going. Up until now, Zore had kept all of her client relationships strictly in consultancy and professional advice. However, after this meet and greet, it would seem that she had attracted a follower who, unknown to her at the time, had become increasingly obsessive. And after meeting Zore, Ramin's fascination with this podcaster would only become more intense. And after
Okay, so it is a little different than I thought, y'all, because he actually did meet her in person. But that ain't make it no better. I feel like him, when he met her in person, it just like solidified his stalkishness, his obsessiveness. You know what I'm saying, man? Like, this was just a cherry on top. Because, like Coffee Man said, y'all, you pay attention. Whenever she was online, I can't remember the name of the app or whatever they was using, but whenever she was on, there he was too. So that was already little small subtle signs of his stalkishness, his obsessiveness. But now that he done met her in person, oh, he head over heels. Now he just went snap crazy. I really don't get it, man. She is a beautiful young lady. I agree with that 100%. But where do that switch flip that make you just want to go Google crazy over her to the point where you will turn to murder? I don't know, man. It's weird, y'all. It's weird.
After the group meetup, which occurred in summer of 2022, the latter half of the year unfolded in a progressively unsettling manner for both Zore and her husband, Mohammed. Now, at first, Ramin began to message Zore more and more via the Clubhouse app. However, once he found her private Telegram account, he would message her privately without her permission. By November of the same year, his frequency had escalated to unbearable levels, even asking Zore if he could call her, if they could meet, and even if he could visit her at home. And although Zore initially tried to deal with this problem all on her own, it soon became evident that she needed her husband's support. As a result, they both contacted Ramin at the very same time, demanding that he stop all communication with Zore. Furthermore, they blocked every account they knew he owned. But unfortunately, Ramin did not get the picture, and his obsession heightened after this, with him buying countless new SIM cards to message her with a new number. Things became even more worrying on November the 21st, when he messaged Zore to say that he was waiting for her in a nearby hotel, and she knew it was nearby because he mentioned the name of her street.
I mean, Justin went completely off his rocker, y'all. This dude literally got blocked by her, and he keep buying different SIM cards to get different numbers so he can keep calling her. They literally have told you, hey, stop contacting me. Her and her husband. You know what I'm saying? That would make it even crazy. You know that she got a freaking husband. She got a man. And you still just as obsessive as you can be, buddy. Oh, man.
By December, Ramin was messaging her every few days to tell her that he was waiting for her in her neighborhood. And although he didn't know which house she lived in, he was getting closer and closer. The situation was becoming dire for Zoreh and Mohammed. To add to the problem, Zoreh was currently unwell and was awaiting minor surgery. Meanwhile, Mohammed was due to fly out to Australia for business within the coming days. Of course, this would mean that Zoreh would be left at home all alone, and in the meantime, Ramin continued to bombard her with telegram messages, telling her that he was waiting for her in the area. Rightfully so, she was terrified, and although he hadn't yet expressed any form of violence towards her, he quite clearly was unhinged. Luckily, Zoreh had a supportive network of neighbours and family around her, all of whom were on call whenever she needed their help. This, in combination with a top-of-the-range home security system, did help put her mind at ease. She had also informed the local police department about her situation, providing them with Ramin's full name and any information she could remember. In addition,
and it seemed like she doing everything that she possibly could do. You know what I'm saying? To keep him away from her. She done told the police. She told all her family and friends. She got top of the line security at her home. A security system at her home. She doing everything she can do. But this, I don't even want to say them words. This guy still end up murdering her. That is just terrible.
to this, they asked Zoreh to be vigilant and to call them if anything new were to happen. And so, on December the 20th, and with all of these precautions in mind, Mohammed left for Australia. And that is when it became obvious that Ramin had narrowed down where she lived. Horrifyingly, just minutes after Mohammed left for his trip, there was a knock at the front door. And on the other side was Ramin with a bouquet of flowers in hand. Not wanting to stop her husband's trip, she called the police immediately instead. But by the time they arrived, Ramin was nowhere to be found. Calls and messages continued over the next few weeks, but otherwise, Mohammed returned later that month without any other incident. That would be until the following month of January 2023, when, all of a sudden, gifted jewellery started showing up on the front porch. Although Ramin was initially hard to track down, the authorities were eventually able to locate him and serve their first warning. As a result, he was instructed to stop contacting both Zoreh and her husband with immediate effect. This was in perfect timing because, by now, Ramin had started verbally threatening the both of them, promising that he would end their marriage so he could rightfully claim her. But the final nail in the coffin would occur on February the 21st, 2023. When yet another gift was left outside of the front door. This time, Zoreh and her husband were not taking any chances. After calling the authorities, officers opened the box to find a gifted silk scarf. And, no doubt, this came from her twisted stalker. As a result, they decided that it was finally time to file for a restraining order. Quite simply, the gifting, threatening, stalking and harassment had become absolutely unbearable, and the couple now felt entirely unsafe in the four walls of their very own home. The report was finalized on March the 3rd, 2023, with both Zoreh and Mohammed's names on the paperwork to help protect the both of them. However, due to the rather nomadic nature of Ramin's lifestyle, it was quite hard to pin him down and serve the warrant. And with the persistence and heaviness of his behavior and his actions, it is no surprise to learn that Zoreh asked for the longest possible term on a restraining order.
And I don't blame her for asking for that. Man, I know I'll keep harping on this point, y'all, but it's just all that keep going through my mind. Like, dude, what made you so obsessed with this lady? To the point where you meet her on the app, then you get her, y'all was just conversating in the group chat, but you want to go sneak and find out her personal telegram and start DMing her. Till then, you finding out where she lives. First you met her. Then you find out where she lives. Now you stalking her neighborhood till you pinpoint her exact address. You pull up on her while her husband gone. You keep sending these crazy gifts. Like, why? How did we get to this point? Why are you so obsessed with this lady? Now, like I said, yeah, she is a beautiful young lady, but dude, nobody's that damn beautiful in the world that'll make you freaking stalk them. And the cherry on top, which really ain't really a cherry on top, but it's the fact that you know that she got a husband. Now you done went so crazy to you talking about you gonna make sure that they marriage end and you can have her. What? Y'all, I don't know.
So, to highlight how persistent Ramen had become, he was messaging Zore up to 100 times a day, including voicemails and phone calls. And whenever she refused to talk to him or simply block his number, he would fall into a hole of fury. He would even go as far to message her husband and demand she pick up the phone. He had even become aggressive, delusional and violent, often threatening to burn himself alive or burn her and her neighborhood to the ground. To add to this, he had now also tracked down the phone numbers of her friends and her family, meaning that she feared not just for her own safety, but for theirs too.
I didn't know this stalker was gonna be. This might be the worst stalker we ever watched on YouTube, y'all. This might be the worst one. This man had found out her family and friends' numbers, putting them in danger, threatening to do harm to them if you don't do whatever he want her to do with him, whatever. If you don't be mine, if you don't be my girlfriend, my wife, my baby mama. Like, what in the fuck, man? It's getting to the point, seriously, y'all, with the way he doing this stalking shit. Well, I'm starting to feel like the police need to goddamn put this man in jail. Like, he need to be locked up. I don't know the legal terms and all that, how you could do it or whatever, what you can charge him with. But man, listen, man, this dude need to be freaking locked up at this point, because he have taken this shit, texting her over 100 times, leaving voicemails over 100 times in one day, doing it from all different numbers. Like, dude is just, come on, man. I'm starting to feel like, y'all, that the police could have stopped this, because a blind man can see where this story going.
This man had totally violated her privacy. With all of this in mind, Zore requested a 99-year restraining order to keep Ramin away. But even still, this lifelong order was not enough to help her feel safe. And that's because of one particular message that she received only a few weeks prior. Paraphrased, the message read, "The only two things that will make me stop is if I end my own life or if I die." Devastatingly, little did she know how true this statement would eventually become. But the most tragic part of all of this is that, even worse, his death wouldn't happen solely or quietly. March the 10th, 2023. This was the day that a harrowing phone call was made to the emergency services. The voice on the other end of the line was Zore's mother, who, at the time, had been staying with the couple in their property for the previous month, and you can probably guess why she had been keeping them company. Neighbors noted that, in the previous weeks, she had been extremely vigilant and protective, often peering out of the window to see if anyone was out there. No surprise, but the neighbors had a good guess as to why she was doing this. In fact, the call made to the emergency services would even come from one of their homes. Through screams and tears, Zore's mother told the operator that someone had broken into her daughter's property, and, even worse, gunshots had been fired. Responders hastily made their way to Zore's home, but, sadly, it was already too late. Upon arrival, officers opened the front door to find Mohammed barely alive on the floor. He had been fatally shot and, considering the trail of blood, he had crawled his way downstairs. First responders administered first aid, but sadly, all of their efforts were in vain. Shortly after, he was pronounced dead at the scene. Meanwhile, armed officers pressed on through the rest of the property, and after making their way upstairs, they were met with another distressing scene. They also found Ramin's lifeless body next to her, and, quite evidently, he had shot himself in the chest. allowing him to die slowly next to his victim. The tragic end to this story painted a picture of the worst possible outcome in any case of extreme stalking and obsession. And to help piece this terrible scene together, there was one distraught witness. Of course, that being Zore's mother. Her account of events goes something like this. At approximately 1:45 AM, Zore's mother awoke to strange noises from an adjacent bedroom. Unknown to her, Ramin had broken into the home through the bedroom's window, and after exploring where the noise came from, Zore's mother came face to face with the man she had heard so much about. A terrifying individual well known by her for his disturbing tendencies had now broken all legal and physical barriers, and was now staring at her from within the comfort of her daughter's home. Ramin launched himself at the woman, pushing her out of his way. From his momentum, she was able to break free and escape the room, and eventually the house. That is when she ran to a neighbor's home before dialing 911. Tragically, during this time frame, Ramin found enough time to shoot Zore, Mohammed, and then finally himself. Mohammed, who was only barely alive, managed to crawl downstairs to the front door before collapsing in a pool of his blood. That is where the authorities would find him only several minutes later. After months of harassment, Ramin's spiraling mental health led him to the twisted conclusion that if he couldn't be with Zore, then nobody could. And sadly, he was given the opportunity to act out on these terrible thoughts.
This morning,
This shit just fucked up, man. This is so sad because all the warning signs was there. The writing on the wall was there. And he did exactly like what he did to the T, exactly what you would think that he would do. And that's why, man, I don't be trying to like blame the police and the justice system or whatever. All that. I don't be just trying to be blatantly blaming them like it's their fault. But goddamn, man, y'all could have stepped in and did something, man, because we all knew it was gonna head this way. And then I just don't like Roman anyway. Y'all know how I feel about these freaking murderers who kill other people and then before they can face any consequences, they kill themselves. I always hate that. And all I can say for that is, and I hope and pray that God gonna goddamn make sure he get what he deserved. You know what I'm saying? They think they smart by ending their life. Oh, I don't have to face those consequences. But in my mind, God gonna make them face those fucking consequences one way or the other, alive or dead. But it's just like, man, y'all, we seen this coming, and it wouldn't. The restraining order. What's a restraining order gonna do to a crazy mother like that? That ain't nothing but a piece of paper with some writing on it. That ain't gonna do nothing, man. I feel like he should have been locked up, y'all. Maybe we need to change the laws about this whole stalking and obsessiveness and all that. So if you go too far with it, you gotta spend some time in jail. Something, man. Something need to be changed, man. Because a restraining order is just not enough. Who gives a fuck about a restraining order? Come on, man. If you really want to go still see that person, you gonna go see him, regardless of what that damn paper say.
new details about a murder involving a podcast host and her husband found dead in their Washington state home. Police say the suspect, who was a long-haul truck driver, drove all the way from Texas to Washington state, and his next stop, the victim's house. According to police, he shot and killed podcaster Zori Sadeghi and her husband before appearing to take his own life. A neighbor says their security camera caught the commotion overnight.
It was blood curdling to hear. I'm not sure I should have gone back and listened to it or not.
Zori's mother was inside the house, but somehow managed to escape and call 911.
This is the absolute worst outcome, for a stalking case.
Although Zore had notified the authorities of his appalling behavior, not enough was done to stop him. Sadly, stalking cases are rarely a top priority for the police, as many of them are often deemed to be matters of personal relationships. But this was not the case for Ramin, a man who had developed a parasocial relationship with a flourishing tech podcaster, and one strong enough where he believed that he knew her enough to be in love. And had the police acted fast enough and made more of an effort to track him down, then maybe Zore and Mohammed would still be alive today.
That's all I was saying right there. That's all I was saying.
The opportunity here is that Ramin had sat outside of the residence or nearby in a bright red truck for several months. And although it is rare for a stalking case to escalate this far, this story experienced the worst case scenario, ending in 2 innocent lives being lost when this didn't need to happen. Now of course, this is where I usually cover the legal proceedings of a case, but with Ramin dead, there is obviously no prosecution to be made. Following this double homicide, Ramin's ex-wife came forward to describe and speak about her ex-partner. Apparently, they were together for 7 years, had a daughter, and have now been divorced for 5 years. She noted that in the summer of 2022, and after meeting Zoré, his demeanor changed quite drastically. Apparently, she was all he would speak about, and he acted as if they were together. However, she never thought he was capable of not just tracking down, but then stalking an innocent woman. This behavior was miles apart from the man that she used to know. Zoré and Mohammed were successful and caring, and had the rest of their lives ahead of them. But sadly, all of this was taken away from them by a deranged stalker. Zoré had made her podcast to help other people break into the industry that she loved so much. But within this kindness, she found a living nightmare that refused to leave her alone. Ramin was an obsessive and sadistic stalker who felt entitled to her love and time. And ultimately, this obsession with Zoré led to his end too. While not necessarily a violent crime, stalking is still a very severe form of harassment, and although most of these cases do end up being resolved without any violence whatsoever, the emotional impact on the victim can be enormous. Statistically speaking, 1 in every 3 women report being the subject of stalking at least once in their lifetime, which is an alarming figure when you think about it. Sometimes it's not just about the violence. Being physically stalked or even stalked online can massively impact a person's sense of happiness and security. And so, no matter how minor the problem, if you're feeling uncomfortable from someone's persistence, it is definitely worth seeking help from your friends, family, and the authorities. And I've said this before already, but parasocial relationships can be absolutely terrifying. This story reminds me of the case of Christina Grimmie, which had very similar consequences. Anyway folks, I'm going to wrap this case up here today. Thank you so much for watching. Before you go though, let me know what you think about this case. For one, how do we as a society deal with stalkers like this? And do you think the police did enough to try and stop Ramin? Thank you again to Day One for sponsoring today's video. If you want to check out the Day One journaling app, click the link in the description below. Definitely losing my voice towards the end of this video, so I'm going to wrap this one up here today folks. Thank you again so much for watching today, and as always, I'll see you again very soon for another one. Just let moments arrive though, remember to look after yourself, look after each other, and of course, stay safe. Thank you, and goodbye.
What y'all think, y'all? What do y'all freaking think, man? Do y'all feel like the police did enough in this one? Cause just in this specific case, I'm not just talking about stalkers in general cases. I'm just talking about this specific case. I feel like they didn't do enough because this one was very serious and it was very apparent that it was serious, man. Like I get it that the police deal with a lot of this stuff on pretty much a daily basis. You know what I'm saying? A lot of different stalkerish type of restraining order type of cases, and all of them really don't get that serious. But with all the evidence, from the finding out her freaking telegram to finding out her family and friends, like contacting them, finding out where she stayed, leaving freaking gifts and stuff on her porch that the police actually came out and documented, you know what I'm saying? It was reported to them, to her going to the police station and reporting everything, to him calling her hundreds of times, leaving voicemails. Like, this one is one of those ones where I just feel like the police should have took it more seriously. Now, like I said, y'all, I don't know how the freaking laws work and what you could really charge someone with as far as just this particular case. What could you have charged him with other than that bullshit restraining order? Because a restraining order, you know that a restraining order ain't mean shit to him. It didn't mean nothing. That was just some writing on a paper to him. But it's another thing that Coffee Man said he was doing, sitting outside her house in that red truck for months. Like, this dude was on another level of effectiveness. I know I be making no words, y'all, but y'all know what I'm saying, man. Like, this dude was on another freaking level, y'all. But what could you really charge him with? I don't freaking know, but I feel like he need to been charged with something. He should have been put behind bars or something. Like, it could have been something to help prevent this, man. It's so sad, not only her, but even her husband had to lose his life because of this. And then the whole, I freaking hate these killers. I know hate is a strong word, but goddamn it, I hate murderers, and especially the ones that they murder people and then they be so fucking weak. They be so freaking scared of the freaking consequences till they murder theyself. They get rid of theyself. They don't want to deal with it. You know what I'm saying? And it's so freaking selfish on so many levels, man. It is so freaking selfish when they do that, man. If can't nobody else have you, if I can't have you, can't nobody else have you. That type of mentality right there. And it's just so crazy because he was literally sending her messages telling her this stuff before it happened, and then it still ended up happening, y'all. It was something that could have been done. That's all I'm saying, y'all. Long story short, short story long. But I digress. I'm gonna go and let y'all go now, y'all. This is one of those ones where I really could talk for another 30 minutes about this case. It was a lot to unpack, but it's so simple on the surface. You know what I'm saying? But if you delve into it, you can go down a rabbit hole with this whole stalker, obsessive type people with the mental part. Like I said, man, he may be, not even a maybe, he is. He got mental problems, but I'm just saying stalkerish people in general, I feel like got mental problems. But I digress for real, man. I'm still trying to go down a rabbit hole, and I just told y'all finna go let y'all go. So that's what I'm gonna do. Y'all just hit that like button, y'all comment, subscribe, and do all that. And make sure you come on back tomorrow for the Wi-Fi Saturdays. But until then, my friends, remember this. Love, peace, and happiness. Stay safe. Don't stop. Keep going. Yeah.